Hey everybody, my name's Campbell. I'm doing this week's walkthrough for some of the problems on the quiz access. So starting with question 13, it's asking us to put together some financial statements, and it's asking us to start with the income statement. And they give us all the information provided that we'll need for that. What helped me here is remembering that your income statement is revenue minus expenses. And there's some things up here that might get tricky. For instance, office equipment or office supplies may seem like an expense, but because that's being used as an investment, it's not included in expenses. Expenses would be anything like our rent, salaries, telephone, or miscellaneous stuff. And then our revenue is the consulting revenue, the money we actually earn from selling goods and it hasn't been processed at all or distributed. And so what I did here, and something also important, an income statement is for a period of time. So for this month, the month of December, we made $12,000 in consulting revenue. And then we went down to our expenses and I just listed anything that I felt wasn't a expenditure of money that was going to be invested into something else. And so that's how I got the rent expense, salaries, telephone, and miscellaneous. And then the net income was just the difference. And that net income is really important to remember because in the next financial statement, we'll need to use that to find out our remaining income, I think it's called. Retained earnings. And so retained earnings is another financial statement that covers a period of time. So for here, as you can see, on December 1st, we had 0, and then we're trying to find out the retained earnings for December 31st. And so to do that, like it says, you just take net income and then you add dividends to that. And you subtract those together and we'll get our retained earnings for the end of December. This last question, the balance sheet, is just for a period of time. So at the end of December, what are we looking like? And this one is actually just the accounting equation. So you're going to label all your assets, your liabilities, and your equity, and you need to make sure that they're balanced. So for liabilities, it was just accounts payable, and then equity is just common stock and retained earnings, which we learn in the expanded accounting equation. So that's why I took my retained earnings I learned from this statement, and I went ahead and I brought it over onto my balance sheet. For assets, it was just cash, accounts receivable, and then some things that I knew that we had purchased with the intent that they would help us produce revenue in the future. And so that's how I knew they were an asset and not an expenditure, like office equipment and office supplies. Land is another good one. And then accounts payable is just our liability. And so I put those together, and the way I knew I was on the right track is because they balanced at the end with $92,000 each. And so that's how I knew they were correct. But that's it. It can be a bit overwhelming at first just because you're given a bunch of data, and it can be hard to cipher through it, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But knowing the accounting equation and then knowing how each sheet relates to the other one was really helpful for me to figure out how to do them. So best of luck, guys. I hope this helped.